Hey beautiful souls, it's Callie, welcome back. I have a really beautiful special topic to talk about today, and this was guided by Spirit last night, and it was really beautiful the way that I was having this conversation with my higher self and how it all came about, and the reason why I have chosen to do a video on it. And let me tell you, this topic has probably been done to the death. Like it's been talked about a lot. However, I find that there's a lot of videos out there that people still, even with a lot of videos out there and information, people still struggle to really know the truth or how it feels to have a true, real, authentic twin flame connection, because it is so rare. And so you may call it soul flame, beloved, twin soul, but we're just going to go with twin flame with this because that seems to be they're all labels, but it seems to be how people recognize the difference from a soulmate to this type of beautiful connection. So there is lots out there, and without upsetting anybody, I just want to say, because it is the truth, that it is rare, and not everybody out there that is saying they are a twin flame is a twin flame, and that's okay. They will find that out in their time, and it doesn't really matter if they think it is, but that their partner is. But the reason I say it like that is because it can get a bit confusing to others that are trying to figure out, is this person really my twin flame, or are they a soulmate? And you have probably watched 1,000 videos like this, and this is one that I haven't wanted to go near because of that reason. There's so many, and I'll be honest, I've kind of been slack and just went, oh, there's so many out there that people can hear. However, Spirit said to me, yes, but there isn't a lot of authentic ones out there that can really define the difference so delicately for people to actually really, like new information, for people to really be able to decipher, because it's kind of like the same patterns and cycles that's going through that whole, twin flame thing, and I feel what's different for me, and my case is quite rare. I mean, we're all unique, as we know, and but my case is a bit rare to others in how I could 100% or 1,000,000% know this connection was real and authentic, and that I was in a twin flame connection. And I didn't always understand it, and I didn't know what it was the first 5 years. I'd never heard of twin flames, I didn't know anything about it. So I just knew that it was different. I just knew it was something beyond this world and something that we don't see here. And mainly why I knew that is that I was lucky enough, I guess, although I had blocked a lot of it out, but I was lucky enough to travel as a younger girl with my beautiful twin flame in spirit form, because we have an age gap. And so I was able to, and I was very awake and conscious. So, and I have talked about this before a little bit in my book, which is Flying Without Wings. So if you didn't know about it, or you didn't know about the story, it's in here. And so I was lucky enough to have that experience. So I knew growing up from a very young age that that love was different on this planet to what I was seeing in front of me, to what love really was. And I really do explain it all in the book. So it's a beautiful story, to read, because it really shows you and develops the love, like it shows you the differences in loves and things like that. So, but through that, I guess I had a bit of a heads up in that I could feel, I knew what it felt like, and even a heads up on my beautiful beloved twin, because I'm going to speak today just from me, because he hasn't ever really shared much with me and about how he felt or how he feels in regards to it all. And we have had a few conversations, of course, but I'm going to allow, but I'm just going to speak from me, because I'm going to keep his privacy, on that, if that's what you'd say. So I just want to speak from my experience, and I know by the end of this video that if you're asking yourself now, is this person my twin, or you're unsure in any way, I pretty much guarantee by the end of this video you'll either know, or you'll definitely take away some of those beautiful nuggets of wisdom to be able to figure out and work out if that person that you think is your twin is your twin. And so, because we don't want to stay in these if you're holding on to someone that, or no, I shouldn't say it that way, not holding on to someone, what I mean is twin flames are here on the particular, on the twin flame journey for their life service, their path, their reason for being here. Most of us are very advanced ancient souls, ascended masters. My twin and I are one of the originals, and there isn't many originals at all. So there's only what they say is 12, what I've channeled and a couple of other originals channeled is that there's only 12 sets of us on the planet. So it is definitely, in our divine contract that we have come here to do, because most of us didn't have to come here again, and we've come here as part of the awakening team to help humanity ascend and planet Earth ascend, of course, as we all know. So, and to bring in the divine new earth unconditional love template, and to show humanity, to really break down all that old patriarchal programming, conditioning and systems around love, around everything but around love. So, and why I say that is because I'm going to explain, long before I even knew anything about this, what I was shown. So again, this is my experience. So when my twin flame found me, and again, he might have a completely different feeling around this, because I had already had the feeling in a human form. I'd already felt him growing up. So even though when that disappeared, I spent, many years of my life with him not traveling with me, obviously in spirit form, because he was then incarnated into the physical and growing, getting older. But when I recognized him, everything came up, everything came alive again, and I recognized his energies. So with your twin, there's lots of stories around it, and everybody could be slightly different, but most of the things around that the synchronizations and things that you'll find around your real twin, most of us twins have that same type of situation, even though there might be some might not have this and some might not recognize that or whatever. So what happened is, the first thing I've always felt since I met him in the physical and came face to face with him is that immediately he was home to me. He felt like home to me. And this all happened at once, with that feeling, as well as soon as I looked into his eyes. And it was a very different situation, because when he came to my home, he wasn't there to see me. So it wasn't like we knew, each other, were going to meet or anything like that. And but when and he was a lot younger than me. So when I looked into his eyes, I felt like my eyes locked, and I could literally see my soul in his eyes. It was like he was the biggest mirror. I could see myself, but at the same time, I could also see him, like, to the depths. I could see his soul, because it's us, the one soul. So these are just, I'm just going to go through, not going to give the whole story, but just going to go through some of these different things so that you can help recognize yourself with different synchronicities and things. So to me, he felt like home and has ever since. And that was, however, though, a feeling that I already knew, because I grew up with him feeling like home to me. But it is, but what I'm going to say is that it doesn't mean that because I had that, others don't feel it, because most real twins I've spoken to have said that their twin just automatically, as soon as they met them and found them, felt like home to them. So it's a little bit, it's a different feeling to a soulmate. It's, and a lot of people that try and talk about, and I have been in a soulmate relationship, so I can actually tell I can tell you the difference. So and soulmates, you can still have a strong soulmate connection with someone because you might have had past lives with them, and that's where people think, is this my twin? But it is very, very different. It is very different, and we all know that soulmates will be the more you know, comfortable, light and fluffy, like all that, oh my God, I've got butterflies. And it's because the soulmate's very different. So and I'll get to that later. But with your twin, I'm not saying that it's more like it's natural. It's more like they're home, and it's more like you don't get all those like, oh my God, I've got the butterflies, because it's just like you want to fall into their arms. And it's I'm not saying that you can't get nervous around them a bit, because once you've been with them and a few times and things start to trigger and the mirrors start to show, you're getting a bit like, oh, you know, it's a lot reflecting here. So it also felt like it was the same energy. So of course, when this happened and he felt like home to me, and I remember the energy, it triggered in me what I felt. So I had forgotten a lot from when I was growing up, but as soon as I felt that energy, I knew. And it actually, like, my reaction might not have been at the time that, oh my God, I know, and you know, who are you and all, but I was just, all this was happening inside of me, and I was pretty much freaking the fuck out because it wouldn't have mattered whether he was the same age as me or not. It's just, and all twins would say this, it's just, you know what it's like. It's, whoa, like, and then I had that feeling of, is this really, is he really there in the physical? You know, like, this is so different, you know. So anyway, because as a child I'd felt him in the spiritual. So they're the only person that truly gets you. And what I mean by that is, even if you're in fear and you're not showing your true self to your twin, and you're too scared to say things, you're too scared to tell them how you feel, how deeply you love them, what you can feel, you're too scared to say, oh my God, you know, you scare the crap out of me because you show me the mirror, or whatever you want to say, you know, because we usually don't say that. But even when all that's going on, there's just this undeniable knowing in your heart and soul that they just can read you like a book, and they can just see straight through you. And I know with my twin, I would be there saying things to cover up what I really felt. And as I was looking at him and he was looking at me, I knew he knew the lie. It wasn't really the lie, but he knew I wasn't being my true self. And this is another thing. So it's like they reflect that mirror, and you while you're having this conversation with them and looking at them, and they're looking back at you, you're knowing that they know that you're covering up, that they know you're not speaking the truth, and you also know that they know exactly what you're feeling inside that you're trying to hide and not say to them. They already know. So while you're having this conversation, it's really, it's really like daunting, because you're like, oh my God, I just can't say things, but I know that you know, he's just sitting there looking at me, knowing that that's exactly what's going on underneath. And I was doing the same with him. There was also times that when we were together, so people talk about telepathy, and they wonder whether when they're in physical separation, they wonder if the telepathy really does work. And I know years and years ago, there was some twins that I knew that actually were talking and in communication, and so they would test it. You know, they would get the telepathy, and then the next day they would ask their twin, or their twin would say, hey, did you say this, or whatever. But so with us, you know, we have that telepathy, but even when, and again, I can't speak for my twin, this is just me, this is my experience when I was, you know, being around him. So when I was physically with him, we could have a conversation, and I felt that we could have a conversation without words, because I could hear him saying things inside, not verbalizing them, but in his mind. I could hear him saying things. And this happened from, it happened a lot from the start, but I was probably very resistant to it at the start, not because I didn't feel the love for him, not because I didn't feel this way, and I definitely probably didn't show him that I did, but it was more because I had, you know, I won't get into it in this video, but I had major fears around judgment and self-worth and things like that. So that's sort of a whole other story, but because of that, I didn't really, you know, go deep into what this was. I probably was a bit resistant to it, I guess. And that would have been too because he wasn't communicating to me how he felt. So you know how, you know, we tend to, if the other one's not communicating to you, you know, especially in the early stages, we tend to think, is this, you know, are we going crazy? I didn't kind of think is it all in my head, because I'd had that experience growing up with it. So I wasn't one of those persons that thought that. But what I did put in my mind is that, and this is why it was kind of tricky for me, because I wasn't, when we met, I was kind of very much back embedded in the 3D world. I wasn't on a spiritual path. I wasn't really living from a conscious way at all. I wasn't, you know, definitely not. And however, I never ever stopped getting messages from my higher self. I never ever stopped having that connection to source. And I've had that my whole life. But I was one of those people that just either ignored it or used it when I wanted to use it. But it kind of looked funny, because it looked like I wasn't awakened, but I was awakened, and I was getting messages. So what happened is that, excuse me, I'm just going to have a drink, because I'm just a bit dizzy then. But what happened is that, when I first met him, it was only like maybe a month in, and my higher self said to me, I was in my bedroom one day in my house, and my higher self said to me, you need to get a diary or a journal, and you need to write down your journey with you and, you know, my twin's name. And I said, why do I need to do that? And they said, because one day this is going to be a book. And so just to clarify, this is not the book that I've written. It's not that one. But what I was clearly told is that, and you remember at this point I knew nothing about twins, and I didn't even know what it was. you know, it felt beautiful, but I had no idea what it was. But what I got told was that that you two, and I knew, I didn't think it was possible at the time because of the age gap, but my heart and soul knew that we were meant to be together. And I knew, and they said to me, and I said, why do we have such a large age gap? And they said to me, because part of the reason you are here, for your purpose, for the two of you, is that you need the age gap because you two are here to show people love has no boundaries. You're here to show people a greater love, and you're here to break down. And I knew nothing about, you know, what all this is later, but you're here to break down society programming and thinking around age, not just around age and age gaps with love, but just around love in general, because society had put love in this box. So whether it's, you know, age gaps, or whether it's race or color or culture, you know, same sex, whatever it is, society had, you know, put, even from the Bible, you know, like love has to look this way. And they said to me, love is limitless. Love has no boundaries. Love, you know, pure love. You can have a connection and a greater love, or any type of love, you know, with somebody other than someone your age or color or race, or, you know, all the rest of it. So I said, right, well, that's a bit of a big ask. And they said yes. Well, so they showed me straight away that we kind of fitted into that similar category of an energetic bubble of you know, quality and love and all that sort of stuff. So I knew, and remember, I was quite resistant to it then, because we had this age gap, and even though I knew deep in my heart we were here to be together, I just couldn't see, you know, I was so in my ego mind, and I was so in fear of this, that I, with all the social, the culture, you know, conditioning and everything that I had been programmed with. But of course, as we know, twins are here to break down all those sort of things. So that's why I guess I had to come with that, so that I could work through that and then break that down through all the ancestors, the lineages, all that sort of stuff. So I knew right from then that we had a mission together here, and that our love was to be exposed. Our love was here for a reason, you know. So, and it was really beautiful. But I also, as I said, you know, it was, again, when you come from that place of still ego, there's lots of fears to break through. So I also felt, so I've just got a list here that I'm looking at because I didn't want to sort of miss out on things. So I explained about the undeniable knowing, like feeling the energy, feeling like they're home. When he was in my house, it just felt like he was meant to be there and not go home. It felt like when he first walked out the door the first time, I'm like, where are you going? Like, it's like you should be living here. And I was not in any, like, I wasn't needy then or trying to, you know, it was just, I was still in a bit of a freak out mode, but I just knew that it's almost like it was an energy that he found his home, if that makes sense. And I could feel that. So, and he just seemed to walk around my house and be in my home when he'd come over, just like as if it was his, you know. And it never ever felt like that with anybody else. It was just him. So, just looking. So, energy-wise as well, you just know this feeling. So I had a Kundalini awakening when he was holding me, when I was in his arms, and I never told him, and I don't know if he felt it. I've never discussed it with him, not even to this day, but he was holding me, and I felt like, if you know what a Kundalini activation is, and it just really started from the bottom, and it just went right up, and it was just like an explosion going off inside of me all the way up. And I went to pull back, and as I said, I don't know if he felt it or not, or whether he sort of pulled me in closer because I'd pulled back, but he might have just done that because I pulled back. But I felt it because it just startled me at the time. This isn't a time where I'd never heard of twin flames. I didn't know what was going on, really. I just knew that I had this incredible connection and love, and I'd remembered so many things from my childhood, not at all, and it was trying to put the pieces together. But at this point, I definitely knew we were some type of soulmate, is what I thought, because I'd never heard of anything past soulmates. But I knew we were rare. I knew that what we had, because again, I was listening to my higher self, and you know, they were telling me so. When I was with him, I felt joined as one with him. So I always felt joined. I always felt so. I don't say that in a codependency way, although later on I probably did. When the runner chaser thing started happening, I guess I got a bit codependent. Because I knew we were here to do a mission together, and I just got to the point where I was like, come on, we can do this, and whatever we've got to work through it together. That's one thing just to let you know, those that don't know, that we're coming into, it's 10.5 years we've been on this journey in the physical together. So, yeah, lost my train of thought now, what I was saying. Merging into one. Yes, that's right. So, and the codependency. So, so I guess I did get a little bit into the whole, yeah, come on, I know we're here to do this and let's do it. And I had always felt this is something that didn't work for us in the physical, but it's interesting. I always felt that we were meant to come together by now and work through the rest of it together. So you know how they say some twins, they do come together and they can stay together and work through their triggers and the mirror and stuff, and others have to come, activate, separate to do their work on their own, because that's like trigger, and then they come back again, activate, and so they do this a few times. And so we were playing out that dance that I guess, a huge percentage of these people in this connection do. But for some reason, I always knew that we were meant to come together and do it together. And in 2016, I actually had an incredible healing and reading, an Akashic Records reading back then, before I was doing the Akashic Records work, by a beautiful couple in Canada, and Twin Flames in Union. And she actually agreed. She said, I didn't say anything, and she said that we're actually meant to come together earlier than this by now and do most of our work together. And I said, I knew it. And she said, but we had just been interfered, like a lot of twins do, by so many, by the dark entities and the dark forces so much. And we are such a power couple, because we're one of the originals, that we've had a lot of interference come at us from all angles. And because we didn't always have the awareness, and I still don't know if my twin has this type of awareness of understanding that we can be interfered with. And that interference will come through, just so that you know, when we talk about interference, it doesn't mean that you're going to see, ghosts or entities interfere with you. They come through, I'm sure most of you know, but they come through other people around us. So they'll come through people that are that we're drawn to go into relationships with, or just friends, family members, people we might meet that take us off path, and these people, let me just clarify, these people, I'm not saying they're bad people. They probably don't even know this is happening, but they'll be unawakened or lower vibrational people, or people that are still very much in ego and mind controlled and haven't done any spiritual work or anything like that, and still in their own fears and insecurities and living that same conditioned programming of, you know, looking externally for people to fill their voids and needs and fears and wants and desires and stuff like that, because they haven't done their inner work. So they're not bad people or anything. They're just people that, because they have that lower vibration, and most people with the lower vibration host entities. So this is how, so the dark forces come in through outside people, people that are connected. And even though I was shown myself that when I activated all my gifts years ago and everything, that we were so protected, but the people around us are not protected. And I was doing a healing for my twin once because they asked me to, and, you know, I could see the person that was in his life that was a friend that, you know, is probably a lovely person, but he was very much had this dark, really dark attachment, and through that person was a huge influence on my twin. So that's how it happens. It's like if we have someone in our life that's quite controlling with us or manipulating or whatever, then that person that's doing that is being worked through. So, and I've spent way too long talking about entities and that, but just to give you a bigger picture, obviously someone out there had to hear it. And so because of that, we were often targeted and worked through because we're on the originals. So it wasn't, you know, I guess I can see now that the last couple of years, like with Earth ascending and so much more work being done, and around the planet, and more humanity more conscious, and it's lift those energies. So as we know now, that the you know, the light is just like the darker forces, you know, not saying that they're not going to still have a crack, but there's so much divine intervention now, and with the beautiful divine cosmic beings being able to descend down into these energies more and help out. It's just really amazing now. So and with these old dark feminine karmic patterns now being cleared out, and the masculine patterns, you know, the old masculine templates and everything crashing down, and so there's so much going on now. So anyway, getting back to that, so I always felt very like we were joined as one. And I always knew that, like, when back in the original days when we started, I remember the very first conversation we had. I probably did most of the talking, must say. However, I found myself sitting there on my sofa telling him things I'd never told anyone in my whole life. And I could feel myself doing it. And I'm saying to myself, why am I telling him this stuff? I've never told anyone in my life. And he was either quite bored or quite interested, I don't know. But anyway, that's how I felt. And he's just watching me and listening, and, you know, and chatting as well. But it was really interesting. You know, it was just amazing. And I felt totally, as I said, comfortable with him. I felt totally like we were one. It was just like I was talking to myself. That's what I felt. And it felt like there was nothing I couldn't tell him about anything else. Like, I always found when it came to talking to him about us and how I felt, I would get scared of opening up and telling him, because I would get scared that I would be rejected. And I know a lot of divine feminine have this issue, and divine masculine too. So I could tell him the intricate details of anything else at all about myself, with anything else or anything else that was going on. But when it came to talking to us, I clammed up because I was scared of being rejected, and I was scared of him running, because then I always felt, well, at least I have him in my life as this capacity, like at this capacity, and I didn't want to lose him out of my life. So, which was not the right thing, because obviously we know that we've got to push through those spheres and steps, and obviously we're a trigger to each other, so we're a mirror to each other. So if we, we always got to be truthful and honest and transparent, and if your twin doesn't like that and they do run, well, that means it's them got to work through their stuff as well. So it's sort of got to, it's going to come out that way sooner or later. I trusted him with my life from the very first moment, which is something that I've never done with anybody, like straight up. And when I say that, I mean it was an absolute knowing that I could trust him with my life. We had incredible age gap, yet it felt like he was the older one and I was the younger one. It felt like he was wiser than me. I would just sit there and he would say very little, but what he said was so profound it used to knock me off my couch, and just about, but not literally. And I used to sit there in amazement and think, who are you? Like, where did you come from? The first time I met him, I felt like an angel had walked into my life. And I describe in my other book that's not published, but that to me it just seemed like he glided over the top of life's stresses. To me, he was very awake and conscious when I met him. He was very easygoing, very into nature. He used to, I guess now, like meditate in his way, and with the things he used to do, being connected to nature and having that time to himself. And we had a lot of similarities. Like we're both shy people deep down. We're both very sensitive. We're both very deep thinkers. We're both introverts. We both feel so deep in our hearts. We're both very, very sensitive. And we're both, when I look back now, I can see, we both were people pleasers, and very caught up in that fear of what people think, and judgment, and wanting to impress people, and, or family or friends or whatever, and just all of that sort of stuff, that you carry with you. We both had that. We both mirrored pretty much everything together. So over this time together, and I've studied so much and studied our energy so much, I can see that so much, like just about everything was mirrored. And I had a 2-year period where Spirit showed me and guided me so detailed, just how delicate our energy is, and the energy is between twins, and that was with so many different things. So just to give you an example, so I was sitting in my lounge room one day, and I had looked on his social media, and this was a few years back, and I said, and he loves nature, and he used to, pardon me, where he lived, he would post sunsets and sunrises and stuff, and because he'd post a lot of nature pics, and I remember looking, and I actually just said, I said his name to myself and said, hasn't posted, I said, you haven't posted, I actually said it, in my mind, I said, you haven't posted a sunset in a while. And so this is to show how the consciousness works, because a lot of people understand you share an energy, but you actually share a consciousness, and your thoughts go through to both, but you may not know that. So I was sitting in my lounge room saying that, and he was on the other side of the country, and I refreshed, and about, I think it might have been 20 minutes later or half an hour later, I refreshed and went back in, and he came up on my feed, and he posted a sunset. So just within that half hour of me saying it to myself on the other side of the country, he had then posted a sunset on his social media. Yes, absolutely. So that's how your consciousness works. So now I'm not saying he's over there thinking, oh, hell he wants me to post a sunset. Not at all. But what he would have been thinking is his consciousness would have worked in a way that he's like, oh, I'm going to post a sunset, because he's subconscious, like, I haven't posted a sunset in a while, so I'm going to post a sunset. You know, or he might have looked at the sun and then got that communication and post and took a photo of it. So there was many things like that. You know, there was another situation where I was in my home, and I had a picture of him beside my bed, and I was looking at it, and while I was meditating and stuff, and Spirit said to me, you need to remove the photo because you're holding him in that energy, because the photo was like, I don't know, years old, quite a few years old, and it was at the time it was my favorite photo of him. And so I said, oh my God, you're absolutely right. And this is when I get into how we can hold them in the energy of certain things. So I took the photo down, and that particular photo, this is how Spirit showed me, that particular photo I had, my twin had as a profile pic on one of his social media apps. And so I took that photo down from my room and put it away, and I didn't change it with anything else. And within 2 hours, the photo, that same photo that he'd had on his social media app, which he'd had from the start, he changed it, and he removed it, and he put a photo of himself, what he looked like that day, as in, you know, in this time. So that showed me that I had cleared that energy because I was holding him in that energy space. So remember, you share the same energy. So whilst what you're holding them in, they're holding themselves in, and vice versa. So it's very imperative that you kind of don't keep going back to the past and thinking of certain things, even though if they're fun and happy times, which I know it's lovely to think of, and you know, but because you must think of the present, because otherwise you can take both of you back to those energies. So that was just another thing that, you know, as an example to show you. And it was like I'd cleared out the energy at that time. So there is several, they're just two examples. Honestly, I would be on here for hours and hours and hours and hours if I was to tell you over the years things like that happened that I have discovered. And so also I used to feel the pain in his physical body, and again I never used to tell him, but then I would he'd say to me, he'd tell me if we were talking, he had the pain there, or he was sick or whatever, or I would find out on his social media if he put something up, but there was always sort of a way that Spirit would direct me to find out the pain I was feeling, because I thought it was mine. And I had this pain for so long, and I even actually scheduled day surgery, and I went and had day surgery this one particular year, and then I discovered later that it was pain that he had. So we really do feel it. I used to, so when he would drink, because I don't drink, and back then I would hardly ever drink, really, like alcohol. So he would drink, and I always knew, without even looking at his social media or anything, way back. And when I say looking, like, because he'd just come up on my feed and stuff, because we were on social media together back then. So, and I would I'd actually get the hangover. So I'd wake up the next day with a hangover, and I hadn't even drank. So, but I know what a hangover feels like, because, you know, when I used to drink when I was younger, not that much, but, you know, but I used to drink sometimes, and I'd definitely been drunk before, so I knew what it felt like. What else? I think that's covered quite a lot, actually. One thing I wanted to say, though, too, is that it was 5 years before I knew anything about twin flames, And this was when I finally went back to I went to my spiritual teacher that used to do readings for me and stuff then, because I really hadn't tapped into a lot of my gifts back then. And so I sort of had, actually no, I had, but you know what it's like when you just feel you can't read for yourself. So I went to her and I said, oh, you've got to help me with this, you know. And what was happening is I was in the middle of going through a dark night of the soul. And when you don't know what this connection is, and when you don't know what's happening, and no one's talked to you about self-love or inner work or your shadows or darkness, and you're like, what the hell? Like, when you don't really know any of that, and you're not sort of actively working on yourself to know that, and you're in this middle of the dark night of the soul, you just feel like you just want to kill yourself. You just feel like you want to rip your head off, or you're like, I just can't do this anymore. So I remember saying to her one day, tell me, you're going to have to give me a reading or ask them or do something and tell me what this is, because it's not just a soulmate, you know, relationship or connection. And at that point, we'd had, over the years, I'd had past lives readings together, and like I knew I'd seen us in past lives together, and we were married in these past lives, and my twin was older than me. Like, we had quite the age gap again, but I was younger, he was older. We had similar things going on back then, but we were very happy, and you know, so we'd had a few of these past lives together, and so my beautiful spiritual teacher had then done this reading and said, oh my God, they're saying that you're twin flames. And she didn't really know a lot about twin flames, so she said it, you know, and they're saying, you know, that you have the keys to each other's heart. And so I said to her then, what's twin flames? And she said, look, you know, and she explained it a little bit, but she said, I don't really know much about it. She said, all I know is that I'm actually a twin flame activator. So she said, I know people come through me, for me to activate them in some way, for them to either meet their twin or be activated further with their twin and stuff like that. So I'm like, okay, well, this is interesting. So I went home and as you do, and I Googled twin flames. And the very first thing that popped up, the blog, was a blog on twin flames, and it was age gaps in twin flames. And when I clicked on it and read it, I swear to God, I felt like someone had written our story in a blog. It was just, everything I was reading was like, oh my God, everything was just, and I was so relieved, so incredibly relieved, because I knew then what it was, and I knew how to try and work with this, you know, and everything like that. So and I even thought then, like, this is how spirit guides us so perfectly. I actually thought for quite a while that if you were a twin flame, there had to be an age gap. I didn't realise till later, when I met people that didn't have age gaps, that twin flames don't have age gaps. I thought they all did. I've met many since that have, but yeah. So, and in fact, one of the other beautiful original twins that I talked to, they have her and her twin have an age gap as well, quite a large age gap as well. So that was my introduction, and then from then on, but what I was saying is, on that article, they were saying things like, you know, to read my notes, sorry, it's a long one again, but they were saying things that I don't actually hear, I haven't heard for years out in the twin flame world, and or soulmate, twin soul world or whatever, in YouTube videos and stuff. So I found that there was kind of like, over the last 5 years or so, I found, or more like probably 4 years, 3 or 4 years, I found there was like a whole new surge of, and I did go off social media, and I wasn't on YouTube or anything, but I just found that I'd talked to a couple of people here and there that were doing that, and there was like this whole new surge of people that thought they were twin flames and were putting out all this information. And I'm like, it's kind of really different to what, you know, what I feel. And there was a point in 2016 where I actually removed myself from all of those, because I actually said to Spirit, no, I think it was end of 2015, and I said to Spirit, I don't know that we're twin flames, because we're different to what they're all saying, you know, in these groups and things. And I said, and I don't feel that, like it's totally different. And you know, they're all talking about narcissists and you know, all this stuff, all this crap. And sorry, but it was. And I'm just like, and I knew this is a tough gig, right? I'm not saying it was easy. It's been a tough gig. I've had three dark nights of the soul and everything, but all the way through it, I've never doubted. I've always known this love and connection, and I've always loved him from the depths of my heart. And I'm not saying I always offered him unconditional love. I had to learn to do that, but I just, like, there is no way on you know, God's earth that I would ever wish him any harm or want to hurt him. And I know we both have through our work and such stuff, and showing the mirror. But I don't know, I was reading all these stories of other people, and I'm like, oh, that, you know, either they're not in a twin flame connection or I'm not, because that's so different. So this is when I said to Spirit, are we? Is it something different? And I removed myself from a lot of people, and that's when Spirit said, I got shown that we were one of the originals, and they showed me the split and how it all came down, how it all worked. I drew it all out. This is back at the end of 2015, and they said that twin flames are rare, and that even though there is, you know, descended twins and there's other twins, there's a lot out there that are not in twin flame connections. And also with the originals, or even the ones that are more ancient souls, we've had more of a history together, and there's lots more stuff going on and attached to that we had to detach and we had to remove. And, you know, so it's kind of different for different twins. But at the time back then, I knew that there was synchronicities, like when I read that first blog, for instance, they said that your twin will either have a name or a middle name of either like your dad or your brother or another male in the family, or if it's, I'm saying this as a male, but obviously it's reverse, if it's a male talking about their divine feminine. And I was like, wow, I was ticking all the boxes, you know, because my twin and my dad had the same middle name. The street he lived on was pretty much the same as my last name. And I found when we were together, we liked the same foods. And at the time when it was happening, I was just going like, oh, wow. Because remember, it was 5 years before I looked up twin flames and found out, you know, that they existed. So all this time I was going, oh, wow, how amazing. We like the same foods. And oh, how amazing we don't like the same foods. And there was all these synchronicities. And then when I was reading them, like, no wonder there's so many synchronicities. You know, we did, even though we were years and years apart, we went to the same school, and we were in the same, lived in the same suburb, which I know is very rare for twins. But hey, I know you guys is going, oh, that's lucky because mine's overseas. But hey, we had the age gap. Everyone has their obstacle, okay? And they literally do. All twins sort of have some type of obstacle. Yeah, so there was just, I've wrote my notes here, but there was just a lot of stuff like that, and I was just going down, and literally it was like ticking the boxes, and I couldn't believe all the similarities we had. Yeah, and it was just amazing. And I think that also real twins, you'll know that it's in the voice. So when you hear them speak, like when my twin first opened his mouth to speak and I heard his voice, and at the time I didn't even know if he was speaking to me because there was other people there, it was just like a lightning bolt went through my body, and it was a bit of a WTF moment. This is crazy. And there was stuff like that, and like I choose to keep the intimacy private at this point, but I'll just say, like, when he first touched me with his hands, it was just like unbelievable. It was just what it did to my body. And I do explain in my book. And it was just a total recognition of everything, you know. And I grew up, as I talk in my book, I grew up feeling I had this missing piece all the time. Like I just had a piece of me missing. And I explain in the book how I felt like I lived between two worlds. And, you know, you just have to read it all to get it. But it was like when he was there, my missing piece was not, I didn't feel like I had a missing piece anymore. And I think that's when I really, when the time came when he walked out my door, it wasn't the first time. Oh, it was the first time we were together intimately, and he walked out my door. As I say in my book, I did feel like a part of me. It's like he took, I explained that it's like he took half of me with him. So there is just a lot of really profound, really different than soulmate stuff, profound things that synchronicities and types of things within the connection that twins have. And I kind of already knew we shared a soul before I even knew about twin flames. And I had no idea how that worked, no idea the science behind it all, no idea about anything. But I just knew in my heart that we shared a soul, that we were one in the two bodies, and that we were here for, which I got told straight away virtually, that we were here to be together in this life. And we had this contract together. When I say contract, I don't like to use the word divine blueprint together, and that we were here on a beautiful mission together, and it was all from our love. So I might wrap it up there. Gosh, do you think I'll ever get a video under an hour? Actually, I've got a few that are under an hour. I think I've got one that's 10 minutes. It's interesting. But I'll just go through my notes. I'm sure when I finish this, I'm going to probably think of a dozen other amazing things that I could have talked about. Oh, and I was just going to say, when I think I said this, that when with your twin, you'll find that you can talk, and it's like the world stops. It's like time stands still, literally, and it's like you're in this bubble, and that nobody else is around. You know, that's how I feel. And obviously, down the track, when other things kick in, it's not always like that. Because, you know, we're triggering until we go through and do our work, of course. But that's how it felt for me. And also, again, the most undeniable knowing that, and this is why it can send you off track if anyone else is giving an opinion, but with the age gap, even though I'm older, I always felt when we were together that he was the older one and that he was wiser. And I always felt that it was like this happened when we were intimate too, the first time. It's almost like we went straight into sync, that we knew each other so well and had done it before. We went straight into sync of kind of who led, and I just completely became open and vulnerable in that moment, which doesn't come natural for me because I was naturally in my masculine energy most of my life, a feminine person, but coming from a masculine energy out of fears. And I also had a fear of males, so it was of the masculines. So it just happened that I always felt comfortable with him, and that he was kind of to take over in a sense and lead. So, and then later on over the years, I found out through our records and everything, our Akashic records, that that's exactly how we work, and that he leads when we're together. We both have that, like, I'm not saying controls, there's a different, it's leading and just having that synchronized, you know, balance together. So, and again, I'm not going to get into the intimate side of it in this video, but we all know real twins know what that feels like. And even, I'll just say, even to that point, I still had a lot of work to do. So I still, you know, was not wide open as much as I could have been in those areas. And it was still like, you know, going to Mars or something. It was like way off this planet. It was incredible. And the chakras. So we all know how we connect with the chakras, and that is the most beautiful. It's just the most beautiful feeling, connecting the chakras together. And I just want to say that you will feel that as full on as I felt that Kundalini awakening, maybe not as full on, but let's just say in my face, there was a time where I wasn't coping with our separation in the physical, and so I chose to go and see him and tell him that I couldn't cope with that anymore and that I was going to cut off. And it's not a moment I'm proud of, but I was really struggling back then. And so, and I was hoping that he would, he sort of tried to stop me, but I mean, I was hoping he would give me the answers that I wanted to hear for me to not do that, and he didn't. And I know now that, you know, they've got to push us because you can't come from codependency, you can't come from a need, you can't come from them filling all your voids. This is before I'd done a lot of my self-love and inner work. So they're going to react in a way, as we know, to help you go deeper and deeper into that, because we're doing the same for them. Like, it's a mirror, right? You know, we're pushing them into that too, because while we're not doing it, they're not doing it. So, but as I did this and we hugged each other, and again, my twins never spoke to me about this, so I don't know if he felt it, but for me, but he would have felt it because it was in his body. So I was hugging him, and I felt him inside his body. I felt his body shudder, and I felt him disconnect on every level of his chakras to me. So he disconnected to me. And it literally felt like it was just going down the body one by one by one. And it freaked me out, and I just kept a smile on my face. Like, at the time I wasn't quite sure what to do or what it meant or anything. But these are things that I'm explaining because some people might not understand what it is, or you know, recognize it to be what it is, and it just helps, you know, it just helps. So I'm sure that, I mean, there's many others I can talk about, but these are some of the things that are not really talked about that much. I call it like old school twin stuff. So, you know, things that were out. And look, I've followed over the years, not anymore, but over the years I used to follow some twins in union, and honestly, you know, I haven't always resonated with some of the stuff they said, and that, if you don't, that doesn't mean that you're not a twin flame. And in fact, some of them that I used to follow that I didn't resonate with then found out that they were with someone that wasn't their twin, and a lot of them, and they split up, and a lot of them just do go out there and put it out there to get the money, you know. So, you know, it's taken me many years to be out there openly, just because I'm a shy person and I don't like putting myself, I never used to like putting myself out there. I'm very different now, because I wasn't fully stepping on my path and in my sovereignty, and now I'm here to really do my mission. Like, when you read my book, through my whole book, I talk about how I've known from a 3-year-old how different I was, and I've known, you know, from a very early age that I was here for something. And I never could figure out what that was until I met my twin. And it was like this lightning bolt when I met him, when Spirit told me what we're here to do. I'm like, oh my God, finally. It's like, after all these decades, I know what I'm here for. So, you know, I know some people say that, oh, you know, you're here just to be love, and you're here, and that is true too, but some of us that are here on different mission work, we just know what that is, and we're here to serve and do that, and serve ourselves first, of course, and then help others. And twins play a massive role in humanity's ascension, and my twin and I are the ones in Australia, the originals, that you know, we help activate the new DNA codes for the divine masculine and feminine. And so, you know, it's kind of a bit like when you're a type of leader, and you're too busy listening to other people and you're not leading, it's like you're not getting your work done. I don't like to call it work, but you know, your mission work and your service and stuff like that. And I'm very, very devoted and dedicated to us, our love, our mission work, and you know, there is no pressure on my twin, and you know, what he chooses, you know, in his life, at any one time, it's all unconditional love. And so I just wanted to yeah, it's all unconditional love, and a lot of patience, and but again, just always know, if you are a divine feminine watching this, that it's never one-sided. So if you're not in physical union, it means it's not just your divine masculine that you're waiting for, or that you've got work to do, sorry, that he's got work to do, which he probably does, but it's also yourself, because remember, it's the magnetic balance that brings you back together. And I talk about this, it's the one thing I didn't talk about in this video, but this is how I knew too with us. We're always magnetically drawn back together, always. It didn't matter how far we ran or how far apart we were, or, you know, I went and lived in another country at one point. It did not matter. I lived in another country and I couldn't practically go out of my apartment without seeing his name everywhere, nearly every day. And I tell you, that is the truth. It is the truth. It is the truth. You know, I stepped off the plane at the airport when I moved to this country, and I came out of customs, and there was a cafe and bar there in the when you came out of customs, and it was my twin's name. That was the name in big neon lights. Yep. Yep. You can't escape it. Not saying I want to, but I probably did back then, because I was in so much fear and everything. But I have so much love and gratitude for him. We are one in this. We are one together, and we're one in soul, and we're two in physical body. And I have so much gratitude, love, unconditional love, endlessly for him. I'm going to cry on camera if I go any deeper with this, so because I'm just so in love and in awe and in, you know, in gratitude. The journey has been hell. I'm going to say it. I'm not going to sit here and, you know, sugarcoat it. It's been fucking hell, but it's like that. It's also been the most beautiful thing I've ever had in my life, because the reason it's hell is because of what we put ourselves through. The reason it's hell is because we resist. It's not them, it's us. They are just so loving. They'll come in and shine the torch on every part of our little darkness and say, that's where you need to work, and off you go. And we do the same to them. And it looks like that, you know, to the outside world, it looks like they're doing this to us, or we're doing this to them, or, you know, they're not a good person for them, or she's not a good person for him, or he's not a good. It looks like that to the outside world, but it is the only love and connection that will help you find your way back to yourself so deeply. And no one on this planet can know you like your twin. No one on this planet can help you find yourself as deep as your twin. No one on this planet will help you back to your true soul, self, and sovereignty, because that is like the name, and that is because it is them. It is them. So just always know that. So and always know that it always comes back to you. Whatever is going on in their life, it comes back to you, because you remember, you share a consciousness, you share an energy field. So I'm not saying that, you know, they're not doing things that are a pain in the ass, and you're not doing things that they think are a pain in the ass, but it's all a reflection. So so the sooner you come to yourself and that beautiful deep self-love, and living from your soul and knowing and your divine being that you are, and shining your light, and just really being in union with yourself and harmony and balance. That's what it's all about. Remember, guys, you know, in the yin and yang. And so I'm going to leave it there because I think that's a good place to stop. And I hope you got something from that. As I said, there's some things that people don't really talk about much. If any of you would like to know more, or I just thought of it then to say it. I don't normally say this at the end of videos, but I I still do some one-on-one sessions with people at the moment, and so I'm doing a few per week. So if you would love a one-on-one session with me, please go to my website. All the links are down below in this YouTube video. So go to my website and email me, and yeah, and let's set up a session, absolutely. And I'm happy to work with you one-on-one about anything. So whether it's, because I am a personal development coach as well, so, and twin flame coach and all of that sort of, I don't call myself a twin flame coach, it's just soul connections, and I'm an energy coach, Akashic Records practitioner, so all of that. And so whatever type of session you would prefer, just email me and we can, yeah, we can chat. All right, so much love, light and blessings to you all. Take care, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.